What's up, Drop Pod listeners? You can check out new episodes of the Drop Podcast every Tuesday and Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find all of our content on YouTube at the Drop Golf Podcast and on our socials. That's Instagram and Twitter at the Drop_pod. No matter how you consume us, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Follow and listen along.
This episode is brought to you by George Wall Ford. George Wall Ford in Red Bank, New Jersey is family owned and operated, proudly serving New Jersey residents with superior customer service since 1960. Rye, share your story about your experience there.
Mike, I went on a tangent in one of our episodes previously about it, but I can't say enough good things about George Wall Ford. I needed a new car. I had an old. I loved the brand that I had. I loved, it was an SUV, but had 165,000 miles on it. It was just time, So I hopped on over to George Wall Ford. I saw our guy Jerry, and Jerry and his team were awesome. I mean, from stem to stern, they're there, they're helping, they're knowledgeable. They have so many cars on the lot that you can go in and say, hey, I want a sunroof, a navigation. I want this kind of rims on it. I want this kind of this, that, and the other thing. There's a great chance that they have that car with all your specs, the color, all that thing. Me, I didn't particularly care. I was like, hey, I want to be high up in the car, right? I need an SUV. I'm a big guy. I got a dog. I got golf clubs. I got beach chairs in the summer. I need something that's a little more rugged, a little more. Again, I like to be higher in my car. And I went and saw Jerry. He pointed me in the right direction. And again, it's awesome to have that kind of help and support from your salesman to the finance guy to even they got somebody who helps you set up your car, right? I got an app on my phone now that's got my auto start on it. I can locate my car if I don't know where it is. I could take a trip to Japan if I wanted to and be like, did I lock my car? And I can go into the app and lock my car. So even people helping you set up that stuff, just the hands-on approach over there is incredible. So if you need a car, head on over to George Wall. And go ask for Jerry. They were awesome there. Again, stem to stern from everybody. I can't say enough good things about it. It was an unbelievable experience.
So to Ryan's point, there isn't a better place to shop for a brand new car. Just call 732-704-1932 and ask for Jeremy Wall. George Wall Ford in Red Bank for all your car buying needs. This is the Drop Podcast where we talk golfing in the Garden State. I'm Mike Poro, and this is Ryan Coulott.
What's up, Drop Pod people? Welcome back to Interview Thursday. You got Ryan here on this introduction of Eric LeFante's interview. Eric is an incredible golfer. He's having a great year. His name is constantly at the top of the leaderboards for any event that he's been in this year. He's a Jersey guy from Colts Neck. We actually got into a funny story between Eric and I that I played with Eric in high school. I was not, I played high school golf my senior year because I needed something to do in the spring, and Eric was a stud golfer, but I actually got paired up with him I remember playing with him for whatever the match was or whatever, and he shot, I think he shot 1 under, and I shot like a 52. I've distinctly remember watching him swing and go like, that is phenomenal. So it was really cool to watch good golf up close, even from that far away. And he's only continued to grow his game and get better and better at golf, and has a great story about how he got into golf, his early lessons. He goes into his college and kind of the trials and tribulations that come with trying to be a professional golfer, or trying to at least even get into that competitive golfing realm. And goes through his life story with golf as it is. So really a fun interview with, again, someone who's born and bred New Jersey and is doing it, is really killing it right now. So without further ado, we're going to send you to our interview with Eric LeFante. Cheers.
All right, so today's guest is not only one of the best mid-ams in the state, but he's simply just one of the best golfers in the state of New Jersey. Today's guest is Eric LeFante. Eric, thank you so much for coming on today's show.
It's a privilege with all your esteemed guests. I'm very, very happy to be here.
We're just adding to it with people like you, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So listen, I mean, there's so much that we can cover here. The gamut with this little circle amongst the trio of us goes deep. But I think before we even go down memory lane a little bit here, why don't you talk about how you got into the game of golf? You know, how you got to the level you're at now, because, you know, anytime a state tournament comes around, an MGA tournament comes around, your name is always near the leaderboard. So tell us a little bit about your background, your story.
Sure. Grew up in Monmouth County, Colts Neck. Dad played and got interested because of my dad. He was a low 90s player before I started playing. And then as I got hooked, and I mean, in a few years of him regularly playing with me, he was, low 80s, high 70s. But he knew that, he just read books. So he knew he couldn't teach me as well as a professional could. So I will make a connection with Manasquan River for you guys. So he heard about Wayne Worms, who was at Due Process at the time. We played the Monmouth County courses, but Wayne was well known as a teacher. He won an award for teaching juniors, a national award for teaching juniors. And he called Wayne and got me lessons with Wayne. But the connection with Manasquan, Wayne started at Manasquan probably in the mid 70s, I want to say, and went till the early 90s. And he is now in the New Jersey PGA Hall of Fame. I took lessons with him from the ages of 12 through 18 very regularly. And I still talk to him and text him and go see him every little bit. But Wayne taught me an awful lot about the golf swing, took lessons. He used to give me homework. So we would work on takeaway, grip, and he'd say, okay, go in Golf Digest this week and see, cut out what we worked on. And my mom saved it. Like I have my binder with like all that homework of like Nick Faldo working on the takeaway. And like, that's what we worked on this week. And like, we spent the first year of me taking lessons, we didn't hit a golf ball on the driving range. He called it Wayne. He called it Wayne's House of Pain, and it was a room in a barn with mirrors and a camera, and he had a wiffle ball, and he worked on like your swing, and he would draw like the swing plane line on the video, and you just worked on your swing and the positions. And head on from behind and head on, and we did that for a whole year before we started hitting balls on the driving range. So
wow.
Yeah, so I mean, I was really into golf, but then that took it to a whole nother level. Like I started reading about Ben Hogan because he loved Ben Hogan. He wears the Ben Hogan cap, and yeah, so so that really got me into golf really seriously. That got really into technique and swing, and he, still kind of my coach to this day. And was pretty good in high school. I was Star Ledger Player of the Year my junior year of high school. So I took it really seriously and was pretty good in high school. So I guess we could stop there for now, but that's how it started.
Yeah. Do you feel like that kind of dangled the carrot in front of you, not hitting golf balls, that made you want to really get after golf more? Like you're working on all this stuff. It's like I want to go out and play. I want to go out and hit. I want to go.
No, I mean, I was at the time I was just like, I wanted to get it right. Like I wanted to get my swing right and do what he said. And he, he was teaching Matthias Gromberg, who was on the PGA Tour for a little while, who had some local ties. So just like, I watched his swing a little bit. A really cool thing, they had NetJets. Due Process had a NetJets outing, and he invited me to come watch. So they had like a lot of senior tour players, and like Gary McCord, Andy North, Annika. I watched Annika for 9 holes, and she hit 2 pins. This was in like 2000, so this was like her peak.
Prime Annika. Yeah.
Gary McCord, that was like that year or right around when he won 2 senior tour events. He never won on the PGA Tour famously, and then he got on the senior tour and he won twice. And I watched Gary McCourt on a par 5. It was a back left pin. He was in a divot in the fairway. And I'm 12 or 13 years old. He's like, what's the shot here, Eric? And I'm like, well, it's like a back left pin. I guess some kind of like a low draw up there. And he's like, yeah, I think it's like a 3-iron. It was in a divot. And he had like a low draw 3-iron, like chased it up there to like 15 feet. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, this guy never even won on the PGA Tour. And like, look at this. Like, Andy North, like, 2-time US Open champ, but he didn't really play much on the senior tour. And like, he didn't miss a shot. And like, it was, so I just seeing those guys, like I was just like, all right, if Wayne tells me to work on this, and this, I'm working on it. Like, that's it. I'm not going to question it. So I wanted to do the right things to get to that point. So I wasn't pushing him. It was just like, all right, what's next? And what do I need to master? And what's my homework? And that's it.
This is the process that I'm going to go through. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be a junkie though to be okay as a 12-year-old to not hit a golf ball, because Ryan and I are teachers. We see how kids, their attention spans, not only sitting in the classroom, but even at any sort of sport practice. If you don't let them play, they're sick of it. They're bored. It's not fun.
Instantly.
So you have to be a diehard to be able to sit there and go through that grind of, you know what, I'm going to critique every little thing for a year before you hit it.
I think junkie's an accurate word for me for golf. So I hear you there. I hear you there.
I'm not too far behind you. I just can't hit it like you.
He knew. Yeah, before he didn't even want to take me because I was 12, and I think he didn't want to take anyone until they were 13. But we go there and he interviewed me for a half hour, like asking me like how serious I was, and he was asking me questions about like who won the US Open this year, or who has the most majors, or like he was asking me questions. My dad was there and he didn't know the answers. So he knew before he even took me on how serious I was. And I think he took me down the path of like, let's try to make this kid as good as possible versus like, let's just try to make incremental improvements so he can enjoy the game. So he knew right away I was serious and I wanted to be a serious player. But yeah, I was so into it from that age.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so do I. That's so old school of like, there's a barn, a wiffle ball. And we got, that's there's something about that old school process that works,
Yeah. It's summertime, the perfect time to get that new boat you've been dreaming about. Comstock Yacht Sales, your trusted local boating source since 1973, now has 2 locations. Visit their new sales center in Seabright. In addition to their original 50-year-old family business in Brick, Comstock is the largest dealer for Grady White boats, offering 22 models to suit every size and budget. Stop by either location any day of the week to explore their impressive Grady lineup tailored to meet your family's needs. Don't forget, check out their full inventory of new and pre-owned boats online anytime at ComstockYachtSales.com. Get your Grady today. Which then led, obviously, to you going to Maryland and then ending up at Ryder. What was the transition of why you decided Maryland no longer, I'm going all in on Ryder, where you ended up being obviously very, very successful? Like what was the reasoning for transferring there?
Yeah, I could dive into a couple stories here. It's a little painful to talk about because it wasn't great, how things worked out through college, and but it's a good lesson, I think. So yeah, so really good in high school. I had a chance to go to a few different colleges, and I for some reason just was like, I want to go out of state to a big school, right? And Maryland was that at ACC, right? I mean, I grew up, back then, right? You watched the ACC basketball, and that was pretty cool.
Back then, Ryan, real quick, he says back then. Meanwhile, he's younger than us. I mean, guys, we're senior citizens at this point. I mean, shit, I'm in my 40s. I'm like grandpa to him right now.
He's saying it. And I'm thinking like that's the Taj Holden, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, Chris Wilcox championship teams for basketball.
Yeah. And Gary Williams, right, was the coach at Maryland. So I just had in my head, I'm like, I want to get out of New Jersey. I want to see, a different state. I want to go to a big school. And I was good enough in high school to like make that happen. And right before that, so I'll tell you my low point in golf, which you didn't ask me about, but maybe I'm sure we'll see if you think it's interesting. My low point in golf was a month before I was set to go to Maryland, playing in the Carter Cup, which is the stroke play championship for the NGA. It's an invitational. It's usually at Baltusrol. In 2005, it was at Wingfoot because Baltusrol was hosting the PGA Championship. 36 holes at Wingfoot, and I absolutely love golf course architecture. Probably my favorite thing about the game of golf is golf course architecture. Get to play Wingfoot for the first time, and I am like losing my game totally. So the first tee on the west, it's a really hard hole, and there's a little dogleg left, ranges to the right. I hit it 50, 60 yards right into the driving range. And the driving range is not out of bounds. So they stop everybody on the range from hitting balls. So I can go to my golf ball, find it, and hit it. So I do that, and pretty much every tee shot on the front was like that, 50 yards offline. Like there's no fescue, there's not really out of bounds, no water, and every hole I'm looking for my ball, I'm holding up play. So I don't know what, 8 over on the front, and
on that first tee shot, it's got to be embarrassing that you have a range of people that's just so it's not only holding up play for your foursome, you got however many groups are up there.
Yeah.
That's
a normal thing for us.
Yeah. I know the trauma that is.
Can't say I haven't been there.
So play 9 holes, I'm holding everyone up, and I go to the NGA. I go to Gene Westmoreland, who I didn't know he was a member there. He's the head of the NGA, so Brian Mahoney's predecessor. And I said, I have to withdraw. And he said, why? It's like, I'm holding the whole golf course up. Like, I can't, this is not, it's not even because I score or posting a score. I just like, I'm holding everyone up. My playing partner is looking for my ball. He's like, it's a twosome. Like, you can't withdraw. And he's like, if you withdraw, like, I'm going to suspend you for next year. And I'm like, and he's like, well, then you have to walk around and take score for the rest of the day, like for your other opponent. I'm like, fine, I'll do that. But like, I can't play. And then he finally just said, like, just leave, like, whatever. You're not suspended, just leave. And like, I still haven't played Wingfoot West, but like to leave Wingfoot, like a 36 hole day at Wingfoot, like, and I drove home and just like, that was, but that was like a month before I went to Maryland. And I don't know. I just put so much pressure on myself. I wanted to be a professional golfer, and like this was the next step, right? Going to a big time school. And I guess, so I went to Maryland, and I was the only freshman. The coach was not good. He ended up getting fired soon, I don't know how much after me being there, but not too long after. But I was the only freshman. Coach wasn't good. I didn't know anyone there. Did not adapt. Like Maryland is an awesome school, and it's just like a lot of regret of like not enjoying my time there because everybody I meet who went there loved it. So I'm sad that it didn't work out, but it didn't work out. And then I was like, all right, like let's try a school in New Jersey, small, like let's try the opposite, right? So I knew I had a friend on the Ryder golf team, and so I ended up going to Ryder, and it worked out. I met my wife there, and I still my group text is my golf team friends that we talk every day. And I think, but but Maryland, like I'd have those big misses, so I got redshirted, so I didn't come close to making a tournament that first year. And first couple years at Ryder, I struggled, and my friends still make fun of me. I mean, I battled demons with the driver and the putter, and they make fun of me about I putted one-handed one round, and I think I shot even that round. But like, just I think you guys know what I'm talking about when I'm saying I battled demons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I battled demons in putting and the driver for sure. And towards the end of college, I've won a few tournaments, but certainly at Maryland, certainly first couple years at Ryder, my game was really tough. And I guess I knew I wasn't going to become a professional golfer, and maybe that kind of relaxed me towards the end, or I actually could start playing decently. So yeah.
I was just going to ask you, do you think it was that pressure you were putting on yourself to be a pro golfer? Like this is the next step, and that pressure just like your swing couldn't take it, and then as you said, once you let that go, it seemed like you played well and have played well since.
I think with college too, right? I never even went away to sleepaway camp. Like I love Colts Neck, I love Monmouth County, I love New Jersey, and going to a school with 30,000 kids, and that is, between that and then Maryland's had a good golf team, so going in there, I'm like, I want to be on the team, like I want to play, right? So to go there, lose your game, and be like, hey, you're redshirted, like you're not even close to making this team, and then just kind of being overwhelmed at the school. It didn't work out, unfortunately.
College can be so tough because it is all those changes, and then on top of that, it's the pressure of playing a sport. You're not just a college kid where it's like, what frat am I partying at this weekend? It's like, I need to work on my game, and now if my game's not working, you're only going to double down and work harder, and probably added more pressure to yourself, and that's a snowball effect there.
And it's nice to see. It's nice to see and hear, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but like guys like you are human. And I know guys like Ryan and I, we have misses like that all the time. But even guys like Marcus Stanza shared a story with us about how he struggled with yips, chipping. He couldn't chip the ball. So he literally gave the game up for an extended period of time. And now you can kind of see, Mark said he got back into it, got back into practicing, and you can kind of see what he's done since. And it seems like you've battled normal things like a lot of us have done. And there are ways to overcome that. There are ways to get through it. You got to put your head down and grind, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's good for the audience to see and hear, especially guys like you that they see at the top of every leaderboard that goes on. Like, no. At one point, he was you. He struggled a little bit, and he had issues.
Yeah, we can talk. If you want to talk for a minute, just how did I? You can't give up, obviously, but you almost, when you get into those mindsets with the driver, whatever, chipping, it's almost like you black out a little bit. Like everything goes so quickly. And before you know it, it's like, oh, my ball's out of bounds, or I just missed this 2-footer, or I just chunked this chip, right? And I think what I'm learned is you go on the driving range, you go on the practice green, and you work on your swing, you work on your tempo, and you try to do the same thing on the golf course, and it's just not the same. It just goes faster. So you're trying to keep that same tempo, but it actually has to feel different on the golf course. It actually has to feel a lot slower. The takeaway, the pause at the top, the transition down, it has to feel slower than the driving range. Because if it's just going to feel the same as the driving range, it's going to be quicker, just because you're on the golf course. And probably the way that I practice, the way that I do practice is I play alone a lot. So 9 holes, 5 holes. And I am hitting extra shots. And to me, like when you go on a difficult tee shot on the golf course that you play a lot and you can hit 2 or 3, that to me is worth more than hitting 10 or 15 perfect drives on the driving range. Because you need to see that out of bounds. You need to see that water. And even though like the round doesn't count when you're practicing, but seeing that you can do it on the golf course really helps build confidence. So it's like steps. So you do it in practice alone, then you do it like with your friends in a match, and then you do it in a tournament, and then you do it in a tournament in a pressure, so it's those building steps. But it's really hard to just go from a driving range to just like a tournament where there's something on the line. It doesn't just happen, right? It's the building steps to get back.
It's so difficult to bring that pressure, of a tournament or of a match or whatever into on the range or playing by yourself. It's so difficult to emulate that. So again, whatever you can do to practice it. Yeah,
I've been over putts where like the most pressure putts, and I'm like, especially putting, you're like, you just want to get it over with. Like, and I feel that with your stroke, like you're like, it's a 3-foot, like I need to take it back 3 inches, and you just jab it, right? And I remember like in one college tournament I won, like having a 5-footer, and I just convinced myself. I said, I want this putting stroke to take forever. Like, I want to take it back incredibly slow. I want to pause, and then I want to smoothly go through. And it felt like it took forever, and I made it. But like, I mean, you need to get comfortable with that. Like, you can't just rush it. Like, and that's what you do. Like, when you're nervous, is like, I just want to get this over with, and it doesn't work out.
Oh, that's good advice. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's how we become a good golfer, right? Process, steps, and practice. None of the things that go well for us. But,
None of the things that I do. Yeah.
yeah, no. So we'll just
There's
stick
no
to where we're at.
process. There's no practice. Let's
no practice swings. We're just
let's just go rip it.
And obviously, I think, to where you are today, like, obviously earlier, I want to say in your young career, now that you've already, put a senior citizen label on me, but you did win the public links back to back in 09 and 10. But I think more recently, winning at, the mid-am at Metedeconk a few years ago, I think that probably, at least from my perspective, watching from a distance, kind of like catapulted you into this next level with the guys like Troy Venucci and all these other names that we see in this mid-ams constantly, Michael Browns of the world. Like, was that win at Metedeconk kind of like for you a catalyst that, all right, I can play with these guys? Or did you always have that mindset you just couldn't get over the hump?
No, I would agree with that. I think it was my biggest win. I've had other wins in invitationals, and in one particular, this field was actually stronger because there wasn't a restriction on age, and it was like the metropolitan area. But the thing, when you have a state championship like that, is just very easy for people to like wrap their head around and understand. Like, the kind of the eyeballs on like a state championship is a lot more than like a club hosting an invitational. And also, having a multi-day event is a lot different than a one-day 36 hole. Like, that's my only multi-day event win. A lot of my other wins are like 36 holes one day. That's it, right? You're good for the day. You have a 45-minute break at lunch, and then you're going back out. But Metedeconk Mid-Am, that's 5 rounds. It's 3 days. Like, that's a totally different story. And the three of the guys I beat, they've gone on to almost be better players now than they were then, which kind of makes me beating them even better. Between Troy Venucci, Jason Bataille, and Brandon Delinka, all have gone on to go do better things since then. And for my wins, I will say, like, I've, for some reason, been able to just take it to a new level. I've won 3 36-hole events by 11 shots each time. Jesus. And then, that's, I don't know, that's pretty crazy. And then Metedeconk, my 4 matches, I won 6 up, 5 up, 4 up, 3 up. So I only saw the 17th hole one time in match play. So when I get hot, like, I've been able to keep it going. And Metedeconk, I kept it going for 3 days, and those other events, I've kept it going for the entire day.
There's something to be said about the shooters shoot, man. You you get hot, it's tough to stop, and that's. But
Metedeconk, I remember. But we talked about the Challenge Cup, right? So I played Metedeconk when I was a freshman, sophomore in high school. I mean, the place was always incredible. And it's always been one of the toughest golf courses in New Jersey. Stroke play, I remember shooting 41 on the front 9 in stroke play. The front 9 took 3 hours. Everyone was struggling so much because they tipped it out. The rough was up. One of the guys in my group bailed. He was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I shot 35 on the back 9, pulled it together. And so I was kind of middle of the pack for the seeds. And then my first match was my closest one, Kieran Purcell. I was 2 up through 2 up with 2 to play, won the 17th hole to win 3-1. And then Brandon Delinka, he was a mid-am champ at the time, has gone on to win another mid-am, and I won 6-5. I just was hitting it so good. And then Jason Bataille, again, I remember the first hole with Jason. I hit in the fairway bunker and hit the pin out of out of the bunker, and I won that, I think, 4-2. And then with Troy, he did not play as well as he normally does, but I definitely remember making some big putts when I needed to and won 5-3. But that week, I remember after that front nine, I felt like I was the best player that week, and I don't ever feel that way. I show up to golf tournaments and I look down the range and I'm like, man, there are so many good players here. Like, how the heck am I going to beat these guys? But I'm someone who I cannot kind of convince myself that I'm the best if I don't truly believe it. I have some old golf teammates who they could convince themselves of anything. They're great salesmen. That's their job. They're salesmen, and they believe their own baloney, basically. And that's not me. I am totally rational, but I knew that week I was the best. And I played that way, and I wish I could convince myself of that every week, but I can't. But when I believe it, when I'm playing that well and I believe it, then I bring it. But I hit it so well, and match play that week I really learned so much about match play because I didn't play it a ton up until that point. But I mean, getting the honor and striping it is just so hard for your opponent to come back from. Like, when they just see you hitting it close to the pin, hitting in the fairway, it's just like they already feel like I have to hit a great shot just to match that, And I learned too, like, I do not watch my opponents at all anymore. I don't watch them swing. I don't watch them hit. I do not want to see other people striping it. Now, when I'm looking up and I see their ball close to the pin, like there's nothing you could do about that, I just don't want to see that perfect shot going because it's not mine and it's just intimidating to see. So I didn't watch them, and I was hitting first, and as soon as they hit, I'm walking ahead of them, and they had to watch me walk ahead of them, right in my ball in the fairway, right on the green, and there's nothing they could do about it that week. And it was awesome to win on that golf course. That was one of the hardest golf courses in New Jersey, but then you see the Corn Ferry guys, what they do to it, and it makes you be like, man, I'm happy I'm just playing mid-am golf because, when 3 under's the cut line and 18 under wins at Metedeconk, it really makes you, question your own skills.
And it makes you appreciate how good those guys actually are.
That golf course is not easy.
No.
And then as we get into this year, I think, and again, I still know that, you got the MGA Mid-Am coming up at Manasquan River in a month or so. But I think when you look back to your summer, whether it was, the State Am or whether it was, the MGA, the Med-Am, like, you had a very good summer. I know you can't say you won anything, but like we talk about it, Ryan and I, when it's these match play events, the goal is just to get there. Really, at the end of the day, seeds are irrelevant. I do think when I watched the Met-Am, like, you got a super tough draw. When I saw that you drew Christian, I was like, oh my God, of all people, drawing anybody else, like, okay, I just know Christian's ability is another top tier metro golfer in our area that can golf his golf ball. Like, when you look back at your summer a little bit, how do you think, or what were your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So we'll start Middle Mark Invitational. So that's one I mentioned earlier. I won that event, and that is I'm very proud of that win. Stuart Hagestad and Cam Young have won that event. So when I tell people I'm playing there and this is who's won that event, it's a huge event. I won that in 2019, and I love that golf course. Fenway, it's an AW Tillinghast, and the membership loves that event. They have a lot of volunteers that are members. They change the pins after the morning round. But I lost by a shot to Matt Lowe, who was currently, I think, the number 1 on the points list for the MGA. So he beat me by a shot. That was in May. And then, the State Am at Forest Hill. I was excited about it. I have not had a good finish in the State Am. I don't play it all the time with 2 kids and a job, so I do play in it sometimes, but not all the time. I played a practice round at Forest Hill. I liked the course. I used every club in the bag, which was really surprising because it's only 6,500 yards, and I didn't expect that. But A lot of variety, and it was even par for the first 2 rounds. I think it was around 12th place, so not bad. And then I was really psyching myself up for the third day, 36, and being such a history guy, that tournament, it's kind of a throwback. The U.S. Open up until 1964 was 18-18-36. And I think the Open Championship was, and basically most tournaments except the Masters. So that kind of got me excited. It's like, hey, this is how Ben Hogan won all his U.S. Opens, was like that. They called it U.S. Open Saturday, like that final 36. So I was in 12th place, and then I go shoot 65 in the morning. And that was really cool. I holed out for eagle on my 3rd hole out of a bunker, greenside bunker. And I kind of was so excited. I saw, Ryan, you played the 13th hole. There's a big dog leg right with trees. Yeah. There's water way right, not in play. And I actually hit my 3-wood in the water that far right. Because I was 3 under through 3, and I was like kind of excited, and then I hit mine in the water there. But I actually saved par. I hit it over the trees on the green to 12 feet, and I made that. That was huge. So I was 3 under through 3. That saved me, and then I went on, made a couple more birdies. So 65 in the morning.
That's a big momentum one there.
Huge. That was huge. And then, and then the afternoon I shot 69. I was low man for the day, which I was very proud of. I think I got Mark by 2 shots, Mark Costanza, which, obviously anytime you could beat him. I didn't beat him for the tournament, but just for the day, that was a small victory.
Sure.
But 5th place, when you looked at who was ahead of me, it was like Jerry Wall and Mark and Reed, who's obviously won, and then Pasternak, who's going to Notre Dame. So, but really proud of that. Like I said, didn't ever have a good finish in the State Am before, and to put 72 holes together, 8 under, that felt really good, because 72 holes of stroke play, like, you got to really, especially there too, it's tight, there's a lot of out of bounds, like you could blow up on a hole and just ruin your tournament, right? So that was cool. State Open, I love playing field. A little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I bogeyed the last hole to miss the top 20, which would have got me exempt for next year. That really hurt, because I was grinding hard. I really wanted to be exempt, but still 21st, not awful at Plainfield, but making the cut there. And then Met Am at my home club, Somerset Hills, was the firmest and fastest I've seen it. The Super, they loves to get it firm when he can, and the weather cooperated up until that point. And the greens, they were the fastest I've seen them. They're a lot going on with the greens, so when those things are running at 13, it is really every putt you could 3-putt when they're rolling at 13. And there was a couple. We've had the Mid-Am, the MGA Mid-Am and the New Jersey Mid-Am in 2020 and 2022, and I didn't do great. It's hard playing at home with the pressure. The course, but everyone's rooting for you, and you want to do well. So I shot 75 in the morning, and kind of knew like I wasn't out of it, but just it wasn't my best golf. And then 69 in the afternoon was awesome. I mean, there were 6 rounds that day in the 60s, and I was one of them. I think Jack Wall had 68 in the afternoon, so he got me by 1 for the afternoon. But obviously Jack is a pro now, so. But yeah, but being 2 over there, I think the low was 2 under, so not too far from the medalist after the first day. Was cool. And then the funny thing with Christian was that I actually played 9 holes with him on Wednesday in a practice round. A mutual friend asked if I could play with him, and I looked, I was like, yeah, I'd love to play with him. He qualified for the U.S. Open last year and was a 2-time runner-up in the Met-Am. So we played 9 holes together. He never had seen the golf course, and I cannot help myself. I told him all the secrets. I didn't care that I was playing against him. I love the golf course. I love architecture, and so I told him all the secrets. And it was really good to play with him on Wednesday, which was the practice round, because the shock and the awe of how good he is wore off a little bit by Thursday because I got to see him. And like I said, I didn't watch him at all on Wednesday, so on Thursday. So I watched him on Wednesday, and I mean, he's really incredible. Like he's got a beautiful swing, short game. His putting is incredible. He's just a different level than me, and it was really fun to watch. Wednesday, I played 36 holes on Thursday, so he got me by 2 on Thursday, and then I just had a feeling like I'm gonna get paired against him. Like like just looking at the seedings, I'm like, it's gonna happen, and it happened. He couldn't be a nicer guy. So I went into the match. I wouldn't say I was defeated before I started, but I knew he was a different level. And I mean, the third hole, he ended up like 2 inches in front of my ball, 25-footer. Like he had to move his mark. Like he's on my line. And I hit a good putt that goes right over the edge. And it's like, I might as well just give him the putt, right? And he drained it. And then the 6 holes of par 5, I hit a good drive. I'm in a sand-filled divot. Like it's flat, but it's in the sand-filled divot. And I hit an amazing 6-iron to 25 feet out of that divot. And he hits it to 15 feet. And I make my putt for eagle. It was like broke 3 feet. And he drills his 15-footer right on top of me. And it's just kind of like, what are you going to do?
What
are you going to do? Like, he's just better than me. Like, And then, so he birdies 9, 10, 11. He's 5 under through 11 holes. I'm 3 down. And, I know Tiger Woods' record in the juniors and the amateurs. I think he was down in like every finals. And you read that and you think how cool it is. And when it's actually you, you're like, there's just no way. Like, he just, I kind of was like, I'm not going to beat this guy. Like, I'm 3 down, and then, but he bogeyed 13 and 14. Like, I was 2 down standing on 15T. But it is unbelievable to be down that many times. Tiger was down, and to just not give up. Like, to just not be like, whatever, I just didn't have it today. Like, he just, to win 3 juniors and 3 amateurs in a row, when feeling that feeling of just, somebody else has it and you don't, is amazing. So, but yeah, he beat me 3-2, which I don't feel that bad about, because then he beat Jack Wall 3-2 and he beat another guy 3-2. So 3 of his matches he didn't go past the 16th hole. But then, so played with him 3 days in a row. I watched some of his match against Jack Wall. I got to know his girlfriend was walking around. I brought my kids. She was pushing my one daughter in the stroller Saturday semifinals, and then Sunday I watched him. It was. I still am thinking about that final. He was 1 up with 2 to play, and he ended up bogeying 17 and 18. And it was an incredible scene. The members were out there watching. There was a 3.5-hour rain delay. But like the sun was setting, like everything kind of cleared out, and watching that final, like seeing the Met-Am final, like 1 up with 2 to play on your home course, people out there watching, it was 7:30 at night, like all that pressure, like that was what amateur golf is about. And to watch that, it was heartbreaking to see him lose. But the kind of scene was really awesome. And, I was rooting so hard for him to win the Met Open. And him and Jack missed the playoff by 1, both of them. But anyway, so that's kind of my recap of the summer.
Summer.
It's
been an eventful summer.
Yeah, I knew you played a lot. Listen, I'm the junkie that follows from afar, and I'm a big, I'm always refreshing my phone, seeing what's going on, or DMing someone to figure out, like, can you give me an update? And I see your name atop the leaderboard all the time. So it's, I do think it's kind of interesting to hear your perspective on things like that. And then as you like kind of look ahead, is the Mid-Am, the MGA Mid-Am at Manasquan something that you're excited to get out and play? And I know it's another kind of loaded field, and I like to reference it. It's home. It's the first time Manasquan River is hosting an MGA major. So is that kind of like, I guess, the icing on the cake for the season?
It would be, yeah, absolutely. I'm trying. I don't want to think that far ahead, but for sure. I mean, I did get to play Manasquan in the stadium last year. I did not make the cut, but I got 3 rounds in there, so hopefully learned a little bit about the golf course. But yeah, I mean, what was pretty cool with the Met-Am when you made it to match play is they kind of formally announced your name and the match, and I won the 2012 MGA Public Links, and to kind of for them to announce that kind of on the first tee was very cool. Like, you are an MGA champion, and so yeah, it would be amazing to add one other. Because even the pub links, it's just it's only the public golfers, right? So you get the MGA Mid-Am, like there's less restrictions, right? Now it's everyone over 30. So
Invitation only.
Invitation only. It's 120 man field to begin with, and the New Jersey stuff is, I mean, it's as good a competition as you could want. But then MGA, you're talking Brad Tilley, and you're talking about a lot of other guys that are playing in it. So yeah, that I'm certainly looking ahead to that. But I got the club championship, the Eagle Oaks Invitational. You gotta still keep the competitive juices going, because playing at home is not the same. Even if you're playing matches, it's not the same as playing in tournaments. So who knows? Maybe Eagle Oaks Invitational is usually in the spring, and they push it to the fall this year. So maybe that'll be a good thing for guys that are playing in the Eagle Oaks that are playing at Manasquan, because that's 2 weeks before the MGA Mid-Am. But
good little tour.
Yeah, I mean, winning the New Jersey Mid-Am is awesome, and adding the MGA would be huge for me.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's going to be a loaded field. It's going to be a great event. But
yeah,
I do, one of the things I like to kind of like ask guys like you as kind of like a wrap up for me is like,
especially Mike, he's mentioned how many times
I know
into golf course architecture
and knowing where he's a member at.
Yes,
right?
I'm very
playing
excited
at
for
Somerset
this.
Hills. So like, I always like to ask guys like you that have been fortunate to play a lot of different spots, that if an audience member was invited to go play somewhere and they had to say to their wife, their girlfriend, I need a get out of jail free card. Like, I got to go do this. I got to drop what I'm doing. And I got to go. What is your one course, if you take out Pine Valley, because most of us don't get that invite, or your home course, where's that one invite that they got to ask the get out of jail free card?
You're going to force me to pick one. I'll pick one, but I think I might name about 4 for different reasons.
No, you can't do that. That's the Ryan Coulott. You can't do that. It's not an A, B, C, D type, all the above. I want to know that one.
All right. Number 1, if you've never been there, Baltusrol would be the one. If you love championship golf, if you love history, if you love New Jersey, there's nothing like Baltusrol. You step on the grounds and you feel like the importance. You feel, 7 U.S. Opens. The clubhouse is incredible, and they're going to have 2. The upper course is being redone right now, but the finish. I was thinking. I mean, it might be the best finish in New Jersey. The last 3 holes, like having 16 is an incredible par 3, and then 17 and 18 par 5, 2 totally different par 5s. That is a really unique, really cool finish. So if I have to pick one, and you've never been there, I'm going Baltusrol.
There you go.
Where are the other ones? What else is in the running?
All right, here we go. So
I'm sure you just opened up a can.
Ridgewood. So Ridgewood Championship course. So they have 27 holes. They have an 18 championship. I might like that golf course more than I like Baltusrol Lower, just for the golf course. You can't just show up at Ridgewood and play that 18. They do play it, I think, once a month, but that championship 18 is absolutely incredible. That's what they used for the Barclays and the U.S. Amateur. I mean, it's hosted 2 U.S. Amateurs. It is incredible. I think the land movement is a little bit better at Ridgewood than Baltusrol. So, but it doesn't have the 7 U.S. Opens like Baltusrol does.
Right.
But then Plainfield. Hollywood, Manasquan. All you can go down the list. Mountain Ridge. All those courses are amazing, and I certainly have my top 10 in New Jersey, and I was debating that with guys today about like what is top 10, right? Like I love, and I think rankings, like they definitely are really subjective, and they're kind of, I don't want to say they're silly, but what the great thing about rankings are, it brings up debate about what is great about this or that. And that's why rankings are good. Not necessarily because it's definitive about this course is better than that. It just brings up architecture and what is great about golf courses. And I think that's what's really cool about rankings. So.
Mike and I have talked about that because Mike's a big views guy. And I love views, but if you're asking me, like, how would you rank that golf course? Mike's bringing the views of the golf course in, whereas that matters less to me because I'm looking at the architecture, like the layout, the track of the course.
Yeah.
So it is subjective. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Eric, as someone who's played as much golf as you have and as at such high levels, is there anything you do that's like a quirk or a habit that you have that you do every time you tee it up before a competition? And I'll say this, I think golfers, whether we're going to admit to it or not, are all quirky by nature. We all have our things that we don't want to tell anybody because we're like, well, this is a weird thing that I do, and I'm just not going to. Do you have any of those?
I have a lot of those, yeah. So, I mean, so the last 2 Mondays, U.S. 4-ball qualifier, had to do a playoff to get first alternate, which we won, but took off my shoes, took off my socks, brand new golf ball for the playoff. And I did that. And the Monday before for the Boff Invitational, I won that. But same thing, sudden death playoff, new shoe. I actually had to change my shoes because they were so wet. But new shoes, new socks, new golf ball. So playoff, like totally different. I mean, I'll mess around with the buttons on my shirt. Like, and my collar will be open if I'm started and I'm playing bad. I'm buttoning them up. Change if I have 2 or 3 tees. I mean, it's bad. Like, you know, the line on my ball, it gets faded. And if I'm making putts, I don't change it. If I'm not making putts, I redraw the line. Like, yeah.
So we're just all over. There's nothing set. We're all over the place. We're just changing whatever's working.
He's a head case. I love it.
Yeah,
Just right up my alley. My type of guy. Just mentally, just things are just rolling. My type of guy.
Oh, that's good. And then, Eric, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask this final question. And you know, obviously we're a golf podcast, but we're a New Jersey podcast as well. And there's a great debate in New Jersey about the name of a particular kind of breakfast meat. What do you call that breakfast meat?
Pork roll.
Yes.
I think that was a given.
Yeah.
Growing up in Colts Neck, you're not going to the Colts Neck Inn and getting a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese.
No, the general store in Colts Neck.
Yeah.
The gator. They put a hash brown on it. That's what the gator was.
Yes.
I used to caddy. I caddied at, you know, Trump Colts Neck, had a due process, caddy early, and then you go get a gator after that.
There you go. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for coming on today's show. I mean, it's, you know, going down memory lane a little bit here is always fun for guys like Ryan and I. And, you know, listen, best of luck for the rest of your season, and hopefully we can catch up soon.
Absolutely, guys.
Yeah, Eric, thanks for jumping on. It was fun.
No problem.
Good luck.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.